Trong cái cuộc sống này thì anh chỉ cần một cái sự chân thành đấy. Anh làm Bán là đi nào.
The dawn unfurled slowly over Diep's humble farm, a quiet oasis cradled by the rolling countryside, where the air hung heavy with the fresh, damp aroma of rain-soaked soil and the subtle sweetness of wildflowers stirred by the breeze. The sky above was a canvas of soft grays and pinks, the first rays of sunlight piercing through the lingering mist to illuminate the glistening rice paddies, their surfaces dotted with puddles that mirrored the awakening world. With a sturdy bamboo basket balanced on her hip, its woven sides worn but resilient, Diep ventured into the fields, her sandals squelching in the mud as she approached the waterlogged edges. The cool water embraced her calves as she waded in, her hands plunging into the murky depths to seek out the hidden treasures beneath, small glossy snails and the gritty shells of clams. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the video. I heard this area's rich with snails and clams, so I'm out here to gather some for the market today, she announced, her voice buoyant as she pictured her viewers tuning in from distant screens. Her fingers brushed against the first smooth shell, and she grinned. Anyone else find these around their home? They're perfect for soups or grilled dishes. Wishing you all a productive day and good health, she added, her words a bridge to the outside world, carrying a warmth that belied the chill of the water. The hours stretched on, the sun climbing higher, its warmth seeping through the thinning mist to kiss her skin, while the cool water numbed her feet. Diep's hands worked tirelessly, scooping up handfuls of snails and clams, her basket gradually filling with the day's haul, the shells clinking softly against one another. The morning symphony surrounded her, the chirping of birds nesting in the nearby trees, the rustle of reeds swaying in the breeze, and the occasional splash of a fish breaking the surface. Sweat glistened on her forehead, mixing with the mud smeared across her cheeks, but she pressed forward, her muscles aching yet driven by purpose. So many clams here. Time to sort them out later, she mused aloud, pausing to stretch her back. Her gaze drifted to a nearby shack, its thatched roof sagging under the weight of time, where an old woman sat knitting, her eyes following Diep's every move. "Bah, are you out here by yourself?" Diep called, her voice carrying over the water's gentle ripple. The woman chuckled, her voice frail but kind. "Just me, Chow. Keep at it, don't mind me." Diep nodded with a laugh. "All right, Ba. I'll focus on these." But as she sifted through her catch, a sudden rancid odor hit her. "Yikes, this one's gone bad, nearly slipped by," she exclaimed, flinging the offending clam aside with a grimace, her resolve only strengthening with the minor setback. By mid-morning, her basket overflowed with a shimmering collection of snails and clams, their shells catching the sunlight like scattered pearls, a testament to her endurance. She hauled it to the field's edge, her arms straining under the weight, the basket's handle cutting into her palm, and took a moment to breathe, the cool air a brief solace. With a determined glance at the horizon, she set off toward the bustling market, the path winding past flooded fields where farmers toiled with hoes, past homes with children chasing each other under dripping eaves, and past a rickety bridge swaying in the wind. The scene echoed the lively images she'd seen. Villagers trading goods, families sharing meals, igniting a spark of pride within her. At the market, she claimed a spot near a stall brimming with papayas, the air thick with the fruity scent. She laid out her cloth, arranging her catch with care, the shells drawing curious glances. "Fresh snails and clams straight from the fields this morning," she called, her voice ringing out over the hum of barter and laughter. A nearby vendor offered a nod of approval, and soon a crowd formed, their hands eager for her goods. An old man sampled a snail, his face breaking into a smile. "Tender and fresh, give me 2 kilos," he said, pressing coins into her hand. A young woman with a toddler followed, her child clapping at the sight. "We'll take some too," she chimed, adding to Diep's growing pile of earnings. Within 2 hours, her basket was nearly empty, the clink of coins in her pocket a sweet melody of success. With a grateful wave to her buyers, she packed up, her spirits lifted despite the muddy trek back, her thoughts drifting to a safer future with James. Back at her weathered camp, Diep rinsed the mud from her hands under a trickle of rainwater collected in a barrel, the earthy scent lingering as she sank onto a creaking bamboo chair. The afternoon light struggled through the rain-streaked window, casting jagged shadows across the room, and her phone vibrated with a call, shattering the stillness. It was James, his voice steady yet tinged with concern. "Diep, how did your morning go?" he asked, the faint sound of a car horn blaring in the background. She leaned back, a tired smile on her lips. "Just returned from gathering snails and clams in the fields. Sold everyone at the market. The villagers rallied around me. Nothing left to bring home." James laughed softly, the tension in his tone easing. "No treat for me, then? Good news though, I've talked to BAC, and after I finish work tonight we'll head to his place. It's safer for you there with all this trouble." Diep tilted her head, her voice cautious. "Go now." James' tone warmed, reassuring. "Not yet. Head home, change out of those wet clothes and pack a bag. I'll be done by 11 p.m. and swing by to pick you up." "Okay." She exhaled, nodding to herself. "Sounds good. I'll be ready, James," she replied, the call ending with the soft patter of rain as her only company. Elsewhere, James sat at a corner table on the upper floor of a dimly lit tea house, the rain drumming a relentless rhythm against the glass panes, streaking them with silver trails. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine tea and the faint spice of grilled skewers from the street below, but his mind was elsewhere. Papers littered the table, land contracts, financial notes, and a crumpled map. Evidence of the deals he was navigating. He sipped a cup of strong green tea, the bitter taste grounding him as worry gnawed at his thoughts. The relentless weather mirrored his unease, and his phone rang again. "Where are you, Kasu?" he asked, his voice clipped. "A bit delayed on 5 minutes tops," Sue replied, his tone apologetic over the rain's roar. "Speed it up, I'm waiting," James pressed, tapping his foot impatiently. When Sue arrived, his coat dripping onto the wooden floor, James slid a folder across the table. "All set?" he inquired, eyes scanning the documents. Sue nodded, brushing water from his hair. "Everything's in order, signed and sealed." James leaned in, his expression firm. "Excellent. I need the land titles and receipts wrapped up in a week. No excuses." Sue gave a confident nod. "Consider it done on." James sighed, leaning back. "I've already paid $300 million up front. Today I'll send the remaining $1.7 billion to finalize it." He flashed a QR code on his phone. The transaction completed with a quiet beep. "1 week, Sue, don't falter," he added, his voice carrying a warning edge. "Sugarin. You can count on me." James shifted gears, his mind drifting to future plans. "Found a designer for the house yet? I'm thinking a rustic retreat, but I haven't asked Diep if she leans toward urban or rural. Can you suggest someone?" Sue pulled out a notepad, scribbling a note. "I'll find some options, top-notch ones." James rubbed his chin, calculating. "I'm aiming for $2 billion, might hit 3.2 if we go big. But let's settle at 2.5. The land we bought. Permits all sorted." Sue confirmed with a thumbs up. "All approved." James mused. "I heard the value spiked. Any guess on the new price?" "10,000. Could be double, but it's a gem." James offered a tired smile. "Thanks for the lead, Sue, great find. I'm heading out." As he packed up, his phone buzzed, his mother. "James, are you taking Diep to BACs?" "I'd like to join," she said, her voice laced with concern. "Of course, Ma, I'm coming to get you," he replied, grabbing his jacket. At home, he called from the gate. "Ma, come down, give me a minute." He helped her into the car, the rain drumming overhead. She asked, "How far is Diep's place?" James started the engine. "About 10 kilometers, secluded and secure." Back was a local legend back in the day. No one crosses him. His mother frowned. "If it's unsafe, she could stay with us." James hesitated. "She's private, unmarried, it might cause talk." His mother nodded. "Fair point." She added, "I want to see her spot. I'm worried." James gripped the wheel. "She'll stay with BC for now. I'll tackle Kaudao with a military contact, quick and efficient." His mother touched his arm. "Help her, son, ease my mind." James agreed. "I'll fetch her first." Then we'll go to BAC's. Wait at the camp, Ma. I'll assist Diep. The rain grew heavier, the wipers struggling as they drove into the storm's heart. At the camp, Lytutien packed a small duffel bag, her hands careful as she tucked in a faded blouse and a knitted shawl. The rain's steady beat on the roof a constant companion. The night air carried a chill, contrasting with the warm scenes in the photos she'd noticed. Families laughing around hearths, children playing by candlelight. Her thoughts centered on James' promise, a flicker of hope amid the darkness, while far off, a shadowy figure brooded in a cramped office, his face etched with frustration. This man, possibly Tung's adversary or a new threat, loomed over a desk strewn with papers, his voice a low growl as he confronted a subordinate. "What's the update on Tung? I need progress," he demanded, massaging his temples. The man shifted, his posture tense. "We've tracked him for days, but no concrete info, dead ends so far." The boss slammed a hand on the desk, the sound sharp in the quiet. "Dig harder, send extra hands. I want results." The subordinate nodded hastily. "Yes, sir. Yesterday we saw 2 officers at his place, talked briefly. Seemed tied to his pomelo exports." The boss sneered. "Exports? That's a weak excuse. Cops don't meddle in fruit trade. Keep digging." The subordinate added, "The task you assigned failed. James and Diep are reunited." Fury flared in the boss's eyes. "Stay on Tung. I'll handle them. Add more watchers for a few days. Don't fail me again." The man scurried out, leaving the boss pacing, his plans teetering on the edge. Meanwhile, James, his mother, and 2 Diep reached Bythen's home, the rain-soaked path glowing under a lantern's weak light. The air was thick with the smell of wet timber and smoke as James stepped forward, gripping Bythen's rough hand. "I called ahead. Thanks for letting Diep stay a few days. She needs a safe haven now," he said, his voice firm yet grateful. Back then, a broad-shouldered man with a lined face nodded warmly. "Come inside, let's get you dry." The interior was snug, the walls decorated with yellowed photos of past harvests, and a table worn smooth by time. James turned to Thin, his tone curious. "How's the flood treating you, BC?" Thin shook his head, pointing to the window where water lapped at the fields. "Wiped out the rice, total loss." James frowned. "Same at my end. Diep will stay here a bit. Hope it's not a burden." Then waved it off. "Quiet here. Stay as long as you like." James glanced at 2 Diep. "Back's my kin. Moved here for peace away from the city." 2 Diep offered a small bow.
Chào bác. Chào bác gái.
"I'm Diep, sorry to trouble you." Thin laughed heartily. "No trouble, Chow. James visited years ago. Nice to see him back." James' mother entered, and Thin raised an eyebrow. "Who's this?" 2 Diep smiled softly. "James' mom. His dad met her overseas." Thin grinned. "So you're the girlfriend?" James cleared his throat. "Room ready for Diep, BAC?" Thin nodded. "Cleaned and set." Back guy, a gentle woman with a welcoming smile, gestured to the table. "Let's eat, food's warm." 2 Diep hesitated, her cheeks pink. I feel bad holding you up. She offered money from her bag, but BSC guy refused. You're here briefly, no need. Too Diep persisted. Please keep it. Support me while I'm here? Back guy tucked it away with a nod. Too Diep admired the roomy kitchen, its wooden beams glowing in the lamplight. Saw the roads eroded parked outside. It's new though, better than the old dirt track I recall. She eyed the flooded fields. Can those crops recover? Back guy sighed. Too much silt done for. We're growing yams and beans now. Then added, less yield this season. During dinner, a young boy, Hai Dang, joined them, his eyes bright. He's 7 in 2nd grade, BSC guy said. Too Diep asked, you both farm for a living? Then nodded. Always. Too Diep smiled. With me it's livelier for now. Back guy teased. Hai Dang needs protein to match James. Too Diep chuckled. He's a champ eater. The meal ended with Too Diep's thanks. So tasty, lucky to join. Back guy waved it off. Happy you're here. Breaks the silence. James turned to Too Diep. Stay a while, please. She nodded. Maybe I'll linger then head back. Stay safe, James, watch your back. He sighed. Sorry you're pulled into this. She touched his hand. It's okay. Being with you makes it bearable. James' voice grew tender. You've stood by me through highs and lows. I'm thankful. Too Diep blushed. I give my heart in return. You loved me when I was empty-handed. James smiled. That's enough for me. He added, many chase success, but you stir my soul. I chose wisely. Too Diep glowed. I'm honored. James continued. I read that friends flock in good times, but few stay in storms. You've been my constant joy or peril. That's treasure. Too Diep's eyes softened. Thank you for loving me when I had nothing. I repay with all I am. James nodded. Your heart is my anchor. As midnight neared, he stood. It's late. Let's thank BC and go. I'll return tomorrow. Back guy called. Drive carefully.
Surprised, she told me about Phyllis, a spas health director who had lost her husband several months before. I invited Phyllis to have lunch with me the next day, and we quickly established some common ground. We were about 10 years apart in age, but she had also been with her husband for about 50 years. She talked of how they met and what their life had been like. And I could tell by her stories and the warmth of her tone of voice that she, too, had a happy marriage. Then it was my turn. And all I could do was cry as I told the story of my own husband's battle with cancer and chronic pain. As a coach, I'm used to asking people what they have learned from their experiences, so it was natural for me to ask her for advice on what happened her due